The metal floor was cold against Lee Taman's knees. His wrists were locked in glowing energy restraints that hummed with power. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye, falling in small drops onto the pristine white surface of the interrogation cell. He did not move. He did not speak. He barely breathed loud enough to be heard. Outside the transparent wall, 3 Vryn soldiers watched him. They were tall creatures, nearly 8 feet high, with scales that shimmered like broken glass under the harsh lights. Each had 4 arms, and their eyes were black and cold. They laughed at him. One made gestures with its lower arms, mimicking a human begging for mercy. The others clicked their mandibles in what passed for Vryn amusement. Commander Vrex entered the observation room, his crimson command armor marking his rank. He looked at the human through the wall with disgust. This is what gave us trouble? This soft thing? His voice was a rasping hiss that the translation device rendered into harsh syllables. Sir, the humans fought harder than expected. One soldier said carefully. This one held the eastern bunker alone for 3 hours. Vrex struck the soldier across the face with one of his upper arms. Do not make excuses. They are prey. We are predators. This is the natural order. He turned to the control panel. Has it spoken yet? No, Commander. Nothing. Not even its name. Increase the pain field. The soldier hesitated. Sir, the other prisoners might have better information. The female scientist, perhaps. She seems more fragile. Vrex considered this. In the cell next to Taman's, Dr. Kim Ji-yeon sat against the wall, her research uniform torn and dirty. Her hands shook, but her eyes were sharp and watching. She had been studying Vryn biology for 2 years at the colony. Now she was their prisoner. Taman's eyes shifted slightly. Just a fraction. It was the first movement he had made in an hour. His gaze found Ji-yeon through the transparent walls between cells. He moved his hand slowly, just 2 fingers in a pattern. Military sign language. Simple and clear. Stay quiet. Stay strong. Ji-yeon saw it. She nodded once, so small the Vryn might miss it. Then she closed her eyes and leaned her head back as if exhausted. Inside, her mind raced. She knew who Taman was. She had seen his file once, by accident, during a security briefing. The file had been heavily redacted, but she remembered the warning at the top in red letters. Do not engage without full authorization. Bring the scientist to secondary interrogation, Vrex ordered. We will see if the male finds his voice when we make the female scream. 2 guards moved toward Ji-yeon's cell. Taman's jaw tightened. The only sign of emotion he showed. His fingers curled slowly into fists inside the restraints. The energy bands sparked against his skin, burning, but he did not flinch. The guards dragged Ji-yeon out. She did not resist. As they passed Taman's cell, she kept her eyes forward. Do not give them anything, she thought. Do not give them fear. In the command center 3 levels above, Junior Officer Ensign Thys reviewed the prisoner manifest on his data tablet. His duty was simple. Catalog captured humans. Note any useful skills. Separate the valuable ones from the expendable. His clawed finger scrolled through the list. Kim Ji-yeon, scientist. Park Min-yu, medic. Han Sora, pilot. Choi Dae-ho, engineer. Then he reached the next entry. Lee Taman, captain. Military designation. Special operations. Unit. Redacted. Service record. Redacted. Current assignment. Redacted. Thys frowned. That was unusual. Most human military records were open, easy to read. Why was this one hidden? He tapped the entry, trying to access deeper files. Access denied. He tried again with his command override. Still denied. A message appeared on his screen. Priority inquiry logged. Command authorization required. Thys felt a chill run down his spine. Something was wrong. Before he could investigate further, his communication device chirped. Ensign Thys. Report to Commander Vrex immediately. When Thys arrived at the observation room, Vrex was staring at his own screen with an expression Thys had never seen before. Confusion. Maybe concern. Sir, I received a transmission from High Command, Vrex said slowly. They want a full list of all prisoners. Immediately. With biometric scans. He looked up at Thys. Why would the Admiral himself care about these humans? Thys swallowed. Sir, one of the prisoners has a heavily restricted file. I cannot access his records. Which one? Lee Taman. The silent one in cell 7. Vrex turned to look through the wall at Tamin. The human had not moved. He knelt there like a statue, blood dried on his face, eyes half closed. He looked defeated. He looked harmless. Run the biometric scan, Vrex ordered. Send it to the Admiral directly. The scan took 30 seconds. The reply came in 20. Urgent. Secure prisoner designated Lee Taman in maximum containment. Do not harm. Do not interrogate further. Admiral Kryn. En route. Vrex read the message 3 times. This makes no sense. He is just one human, one soldier. Thys felt his scales prickle with instinctive fear. He had served on the Outer Rim before this assignment. He had heard stories. Whispers among soldiers who drank too much fermented plasma. Tales of a human who moved like smoke and struck like lightning. A ghost that killed entire squads without making a sound. They called it the Reaper. But those were just stories. Propaganda. Human psychological warfare. Thys looked at the kneeling man through the transparent wall. Taman opened his eyes fully for the first time. He looked directly at Thys. There was no anger in those eyes. No fear. No emotion at all. Just cold calculation. Thys took a step back without meaning to. Sir, he whispered. I think we made a mistake. Admiral Kryn's hologram materialized in Commander Vrex's private chamber. The flickering blue image showed a Vryn covered in scars from 100 battles. His right upper arm was mechanical, replaced after some long-ago injury. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of experience and something else. Something that sounded almost like fear. Tell me exactly how you captured the human, Kryn said, without greeting. Vrex straightened. Sir, our forces overwhelmed the colony's defenses. Most humans surrendered or died. This one fought from a fortified position until his ammunition ran out. He had no choice but to surrender. He chose to be captured, Kryn corrected. You did not capture him, he allowed it. Sir, I do not understand. The hologram flickered as Kryn pulled up files and threw them onto Vrex's screens. Security footage began playing. Grainy. Damaged. Taken from various sources. The first showed a Vryn supply depot on a barren moon. 200 soldiers guarded it. The timestamp read 6 months earlier. Watch, Kryn commanded. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Guards patrolled. Machines unloaded cargo. Then the lights went out. When emergency power restored after 3 seconds of darkness, 5 guards were dead. Their throats cut so precisely they had not even made a sound. Chaos erupted. Soldiers fired in all directions. Their plasma bolts lit up the darkness but hit nothing. The footage jumped to another camera. More guards fell. Then another camera. And another. In 15 minutes, the entire depot was silent. 200 soldiers dead. The cargo destroyed. Security footage from multiple angles showed only brief glimpses of the attacker. A human figure in black armor, moving too fast, always in the blind spots. Always 3 steps ahead of where the Vryn aimed. The last camera caught a clear image for half a second. The human stood atop a cargo container, looking directly at the camera. Then, the recording ended. We found one survivor, Kryn said. He had hidden in a waste container. He was incoherent, babbling about a demon. About death itself, walking among them. Kryn paused. He repeated one word over and over. Vrex felt his blood run cold. That is a myth. Human propaganda. I thought so too. Then it happened again. More footage played. Another attack. Another massacre. Different moon. Different outpost. Same result. And, again, a third video. And 7 more times after that. The pattern was clear. One human. Impossible odds. Total victory. We have been hunting this human for 2 years, Kryn continued. Every trap failed. Every ambush backfired. Our best intelligence could not locate him. The humans called him Reaper. And they protected his identity. We never learned his real name. The Admiral's hologram leaned forward. Until you sent me that biometric scan. Lee Taman. Captain. Special Operations. That is the Reaper's true name. Vrex looked at his own hands. They were shaking. He is locked in a cell. Restrained. We have him. Do you? Kryn asked coldly. Or does he have you? Before Vrex could respond, Ensign Thys burst into the room without permission. His scales were pale with panic. Sir. The human prisoners in the medical bay. Something happened. Explain. Vrex snapped. We were questioning Park Minho, the medic. We asked him about the other prisoners. About Lee Taman specifically. Thys swallowed. He started laughing, sir. He was injured, exhausted, defeated. But he laughed. He said, and I quote, You caught him? You are already dead. Ridiculous, Vrex said, but his voice lacked confidence. Take me to this medic. In the medical bay, Park Minho sat on an examination table. His left leg was bandaged, and bruises covered his face. But he smiled when Vrex entered. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. A terrible, wonderful secret. You think you won, Minho said in broken Vryn language. You think you captured us. You are wrong. Your friend is restrained, Vrex said. He cannot help you. Minho's smile widened. You do not understand. Taman does not need help. We do not need rescue. He just needs time. He leaned forward despite the pain it caused. How long has he been in that cell? Hours? Watching? Listening? Learning your patterns? Your schedules? Your weaknesses? He laughed again, and the sound made the Vryn guards step back. You put the Reaper inside your ship. You locked the Predator inside with the prey. And you think you are safe. Vrex struck Minho across the face. The human's head snapped to the side. But when he looked back, he was still smiling. Blood ran from his split lip. Tick-tock, Commander. Tick-tock. Tick-tock. The lights flickered. Just for a second. Power hiccuped and then stabilized. The Vryn in the room looked at each other. Station power never flickered. The fusion cores were too stable. Vrex's communication device chirped urgently. Commander, this is detention level. Report. 3 guards, assigned to cell block 7, are not responding. We show them active on sensors, but they will not answer communications. Cell block 7. Where they were holding Taman. Vrex ran. His forearms pumped as he sprinted through corridors with Thys close behind. Admiral Kryn's hologram followed on portable projectors, flickering from wall screen to wall screen as they moved. Seal all bulkheads, Kryn ordered. Lock down the ship. He cannot be allowed to move freely. They reached the detention level. The guards at the entrance were unconscious, necks broken cleanly. Vrex's hands trembled as he opened the security feed to Taman's cell. The cell was empty. The energy restraints lay on the floor, still powered but containing nothing. The transparent wall showed no sign of damage. The door had never opened. It should have been impossible. How? Vrex whispered. On the screen, he noticed something. The camera angle had a blind spot. Just a small one. Near the ceiling where the wall met the corner. A human-sized blind spot. Vrex rewound the footage slowly. There. For just a fraction of a second, when the lights had flickered, a shadow moved in that blind spot. Taman had been watching, waiting, timing his escape to the exact moment of that power fluctuation. He planned this from the moment you put him in the cell, Kryn said quietly. He let you capture him. He wanted to be on this ship. But why? This asked. What could he possibly gain? The ship's alarm began to wail. Red lights bathed the corridors. A voice over the intercom announced, "Security breach. Multiple sectors. All personnel to battle stations." Minho's laughter echoed from the medical bay down the hall. Even wounded, even captured, he could not stop laughing. The hunt had begun. But the Vryn were starting to realize something terrifying. They were not the hunters. They were the prey. Captain Sylth was a veteran of 30 campaigns. She had fought humans before at New Sejong, and they had died like all the others. But as she reviewed the security reports flooding her terminal, ice formed in her chest. 5 guards dead in cell block 7. 3 more in corridor 9. 2 technicians in the engineering sublevel, all within 8 minutes. All killed silently. Efficiently. With no wasted movement. She pulled up the scattered camera feeds. The human appeared and disappeared like smoke. A shadow in a maintenance shaft here. A flicker at the edge of a corridor there. Never a clear shot. Never in the same place, twice. All units, converge on Sector 12, she ordered. Full combat formation. Plasma rifles, charged and ready. 20 soldiers responded. They moved in disciplined groups, covering each other, watching every corner. Sylth watched through their helmet cameras. They reached Sector 12. Empty. Nothing but storage containers and dim emergency lighting. Then the lights went out completely. Sylth heard breathing over the communication channel. Heavy, panicked breathing. A weapon discharged. The flash lit up the darkness for just a moment. In that split second, she saw one of her soldiers falling, then another. The lights came back on. 8 soldiers lay on the floor, unconscious or dead. The remaining 12 stood in a tight circle, weapons pointed outward, searching frantically. But the human was already gone. Sylth slammed her fist on the console. He is hurting us, making us afraid, making us waste resources. Captain, one of her officers said quietly. We should evacuate the non-essential personnel to escape pods. No, that would be admitting defeat. We outnumber him 200 to 1. Numbers do not seem to matter to this human. Meanwhile, in the bowels of the ship, Taemin moved through the ventilation system. His body was bruised and bleeding, but his mind was clear. He had memorized the ship's layout from the brief glimpses he had seen while being moved to the cell. He had counted steps, noted turn angles, listened to the hum of different power systems. 3 days of silence had not been submission. It had been preparation. He dropped from a vent into a darkened storage room. Choi Dae-ho was being held here, separated from the others, because the Vryn recognized his technical skills as dangerous. The engineer sat against a wall. Hands bound, but his eyes were alert. When Taemin emerged from the shadows, Dae-ho did not gasp or shout. He simply nodded, as if he had been expecting this. Taemin cut his restraints with a plasma cutter taken from a dead guard. Can you access their systems? Quote, Dae-ho rubbed his wrists and smiled. Give me 30 seconds. He moved to a wall panel and pried it open. His fingers flew across the alien interface. The Vryn had designed their computer systems to be secure, but Dae-ho had spent 2 years studying their technology at the colony. He knew their patterns, their shortcuts, their arrogance. I am in, he whispered. What do you need? Life support, navigation. And where are they holding the others? Dae-ho's fingers danced. Medical bay, fighter bay, and Ji-yun is still in interrogation room 4. He paused. Taemin, there are a lot of them between us and our people. I know. That is why I need you to make them blind. Dae-ho grinned and began typing faster. This will be fun. Throughout the ship, systems began to malfunction. Lights flickered. Doors locked and unlocked randomly. Security cameras showed static or looping footage, The Vryn soldiers found themselves turned around, lost in corridors they should know by heart. Communication channels crossed and mixed, creating confusion. Some sections lost gravity for brief moments. Others had too much. Commander Vrex watched the chaos from the command deck. He has help. Someone is sabotaging our systems. Sir, should we shut down the main computer? An officer suggested. That would leave us dead in space. No. Find the access point. Cut him off. But Deho was already moving. Taemin led him through passages the Vryn could not follow, too small for their larger bodies. They reached the medical bay through a service corridor. 2 guards stood outside. Taemin did not slow down. He moved like water flowing around rocks, too fast for them to track. By the time they realized he was there, both were on the ground. Park Minho looked up as Taemin entered. Took you long enough. Can you walk? Minho stood, wincing. I can fight. That is what matters. There were 5 other humans in the medical bay, all wounded to varying degrees. Taemin freed them quickly. Stay quiet. Stay together. We moved to the fighter bay. One of the prisoners, a young woman named Lee Nari, spoke up. Her arm was in a sling. There are at least 50 guards between here and there. We will never make it. Yes, we will, Taemin said simply. Because they are looking for one ghost. They will not see a group moving like civilians. He was right. Deho altered their identification badges electronically. To the Vryn sensors, the humans now registered as captured aliens from another conquered species, being transferred between holding areas. They walked through 2 checkpoints without being challenged. The Vryn guards barely looked at them, too focused on finding the dangerous human saboteur. They reached interrogation room 4. Jion was inside, alone now, exhausted. When the door opened and she saw Taemin, tears filled her eyes. Not from fear or relief, but from understanding. He had come back for every single one of them. Not as a hero, as a soldier, doing his duty. Time to go home, he said quietly. The group moved together now. 12 humans against a ship full of hundreds. But they had surprise. They had coordination. And they had something the Vryn did not understand. They had fought together before. They knew each other's movements, each other's thoughts. They were a team. Han Sora was in the fighter bay, locked in a detention cage. She saw them coming and immediately began picking the lock with a piece of wire she had hidden in her boot. By the time they reached her, she was already free. About time, she said, then looked at the rows of Vryn fighters parked in the bay. Oh, this will be fun. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Vrex's voice came over every speaker. All personnel, converge on the fighter bay. The humans are escaping. Kill them, if necessary. Taemin looked at his people. They were tired, hurt, outnumbered. But not one of them looked afraid. He pulled out a small device from his belt. A human emergency beacon. Somehow, still intact. He activated it. Now we hold, he said. Sylth arrived with 40 soldiers. They filled the entrance to the fighter bay. Weapons raised. She saw the humans gathered near the fighters, trapped with nowhere to run. She allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Then Ensign Thys appeared beside her, his scales pale. Captain, sensors are detecting multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Human ships. A lot of them, through the bay's large viewport. Stars began to explode with light. Massive human warships materialized from the darkness, their weapons already firing. The battle had just begun, and Lee Taemin smiled for the first time in 3 days. Admiral Kang Yuna stood on the bridge of the human battleship Times, Indomitable Asterisk, watching the tactical display with cold satisfaction. 8 human warships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel, weapons hot and shields at maximum. They had been tracking Taemin's emergency beacon for 6 hours, pushing their engines beyond safety limits to get here in time. All ships, engage at will, she commanded. Target their weapons and engines. I want that war cruiser crippled, not destroyed. Our people are still on board. The Vryn fleet scattered in confusion. They had been celebrating victory over a human colony, confident in their superiority. Now they faced a rescue fleet that fought with the fury of those who had come to save their own. Inside the Times Dominion's Fist asterisk, Commander Vrex felt his ship shudder as human missiles struck the port shields. Return fire! All batteries! But the human ships moved with precision. They had studied Vryn tactics for years. Every weakness, every predictable pattern had been catalogued and exploited. Where the Vryn expected frontal assault, the humans flanked. Where the Vryn consolidated power, the humans divided and struck from multiple angles. Admiral Kryn's flagship engaged the Times' indomitable Times directly. The two massive vessels traded fire, shields flaring with each impact. Kryn watched his opponent's movements with grudging respect. This human commander understood war the same way he did, not as glory or conquest, but as calculation and sacrifice. Admiral Kryn, his communication officer said, "The human commander is hailing us. Put her through." Kang Yuna's face appeared on the screen. She was older than Kryn expected, with gray streaking her black hair and scars on her face from old battles. "Admiral Kryn, I know who you are. You know who I am. Let us be honest with each other. Rotu, I am listening. You have one of my officers on that war cruiser, Lee Taman. I am taking him back, along with every human prisoner you hold. You can surrender the ship, or I can tear it apart around you. Your choice." Kryn's mandibles clicked. "You would sacrifice your fleet for one soldier?" Yuna's expression hardened. "You do not understand humans at all, do you? We do not leave our people behind. Not one. Not ever. That is not weakness. That is why you will lose this war." The transmission cut off. The human attack intensified. Inside the fighter bay, Taman and his people fought desperately to hold their position. Sylth's 40 soldiers pressed hard, using their numbers and superior firepower. But the humans had cover among the parked fighters, and they made every shot count. Park Minho, despite his injured leg, fired a captured plasma rifle with steady accuracy. Han Sora had started the engines on 2 Vryn fighters, using them as mobile cover. Daeho crouched behind a computer terminal, still hacking systems, making doors lock behind the advancing Vryn and cutting off their reinforcements. Ji-Yon tended to the wounded, keeping them stable and ready to move. She was not a soldier, but she had learned enough from living in a military colony. She kept her hands steady even as plasma bolts scorched the air above her head. Taman moved among them, directing fire, calling out enemy positions, making sure everyone stayed alive. This was what he had trained for. Not glory, not heroics, just keeping his people breathing until help arrived. Lieutenant Bei Ji-hoon led a team of 30 human marines through a docking tube that had latched onto the Times Dominion's Fist asterisk. They cut through the hull with plasma torches and stormed inside. The Vryn soldiers who tried to stop them found themselves facing humans who fought with a coordination born from years of training together. "Advance to the fighter bay," Bay ordered. "Captain Taman is holding that position." They fought through corridor after corridor. The Vryn were tough and determined, but the humans were relentless. Every meter was paid for in blood on both sides, but the humans kept pushing forward. Commander Vrex realized the battle was lost. His ship was being boarded, his fleet was scattered, and somewhere inside his vessel, one human had started a cascade that would end in total defeat. He made a decision born from desperation and rage. "Bring the remaining human prisoners to the command deck," he ordered. "If we cannot win, we will negotiate." 10 humans were dragged onto the bridge, bound and terrified. Vrex opened a communication channel. "Human Marines, this is Commander Vrex. I have 10 of your people on my command deck. Surrender, or I will execute them." The response came not from the Marines but from a different voice. Calm, cold. The voice of someone who had been silent for days but now had something to say. "Commander Vrex, this is Captain Lee Taman. Release those prisoners immediately. Vrex laughed. You are in no position to make demands, human. You are trapped in the fighter bay with nowhere to go. You are wrong about that, Taman replied. I am exactly where I need to be. Before Vrex could respond, Han Sora fired up a Vryn fighter's engines at full power without engaging the thrust limiters. The superheated exhaust blast cleared a path through the soldiers blocking the bay entrance. Taman sprinted through the gap, followed by Minho and 3 others. They disappeared into the ship's corridors before Sylth could regroup her forces. Deho's voice came over Vrex's speakers, cheerful and mocking. Commander, I should tell you something. While you were busy chasing the captain, I have been very busy too. Your reactor safeties? Disabled. Your escape pod systems? Rerouted. Your command deck doors? Well, you are about to find out. The doors to the command deck slid open. Taman stood there, alone, holding a plasma rifle he had taken from a dead guard. Behind him, Beijihun's Marines secured the corridor. Vrex grabbed one of the human prisoners, holding a blade to the woman's throat. Taman did not stop walking. Let her go. I will kill her. No, you will not. Taman's voice was absolutely certain. You will put down the blade, release the prisoners, and surrender. Because if you harm even one more human, I will make sure you do not leave this ship alive. Vrex saw something in those eyes then. The same thing Thys had seen days ago in the cell. Not anger, not hatred, just cold certainty. The absolute confidence of a predator facing prey. The blade trembled in Vrex's hand. He was a warrior. He had killed hundreds. But standing before this one human, he felt like a child facing a natural disaster. Inevitable. Unstoppable. Who are you? Vrex whispered. I am what you made me, Taman said. You declared war on humanity. You thought we would be easy prey. You were wrong. He took another step forward. I am the consequence of that mistake. I am the Reaper. The blade fell from Vrex's hand. The human prisoner scrambled away. The other Vryn on the bridge looked at each other, then slowly raised their hands in surrender. Outside the ship, Admiral Kryn watched his fleet retreat. The human rescue force had accomplished its objective. More than that, they had demonstrated a level of tactical superiority that terrified him. These were not the weak prey species the Vryn Empire had expected. These were warriors who understood war better than the Vryn ever had. His communication officer spoke quietly. Sir, the war cruiser times Dominion's Fist times is signaling surrender. Commander Vrex is requesting permission to evacuate. Kryn looked at the crippled ship. Inside it, one human soldier had done what an entire fleet should have prevented. He activated his personal communicator. Captain Taman, this is Admiral Kryn. May I ask you a question? Taman appeared on the screen, surrounded by freed prisoners and victorious Marines. Ask, why are you called Reaper? Taman looked directly at him. Because when you plant war against humanity, I am what you harvest. Kryn understood then. This was not one exceptional human. This was what humans were. All of them. A species that would cross the galaxy to save their own. That would fight against impossible odds. That would never, ever surrender. Evacuate your crew, Admiral. Yuna's voice cut in. This ship is about to have a reactor malfunction. Kryn did not argue. He ordered his fleet to stand down and retrieve life pods. The humans had won. Not just the battle, but something more important. They had won the knowledge war. The Vryn would never underestimate humanity again. As the last Vryn evacuated, Taman set the reactor to critical overload. The explosion would be visible across 3 star systems. A message written in fire and fury. All personnel, back to the ships, he ordered. We are going home. 6 months passed like water flowing through fingers. The explosion of the times Dominion's Fist times had indeed been visible across 3 star systems, and its meaning spread even farther. In the halls of the Vryn High Council, That explosion had started arguments that still echoed in the present day. Councillor Dren stood before the assembled council, his forearms spread in a gesture of openness. Around him sat the most powerful Vryn in the Empire, and every single one looked uncomfortable. The chamber was built to intimidate, with high ceilings and walls covered in the names of conquered species. Today, those names felt less like trophies and more like warnings. "We must face the truth," Dren said. "The human problem is not a problem. It is a catastrophe of our own making." High Counselor Mix clicked his mandibles in irritation. "We lost one ship, one battle. This is not unprecedented." "We did not lose a battle," Dren countered. "We lost our confidence. Our soldiers refused deployments to human space. 3 separate units have requested transfers rather than face human forces again. Our intelligence reports are filled with references to the Reaper, and now our own troops tell stories about this human as if he were a demon from their nightmares." "It is one soldier," Mix insisted. "One exceptional individual. We can adapt our tactics." Dren activated a holographic display. Images filled the chamber. Different humans. Different locations. Different operations. "This is Captain Lee Taemin, the one we called Reaper. But here is Major Kim Hyun-woo, operating in the northern sectors. And Lieutenant Park Seo-jun, who destroyed our listening post on Kepler 442b. And here, Sergeant Kang Mina, who rescued 40 humans from a prisoner transport with only 3 other soldiers." The images kept coming. Dozens of them. The Reaper was not unique. He was just the first one we noticed. The council chamber fell silent. Each member looked at the faces of human soldiers who had accomplished what should have been impossible. Not through luck, through training, determination, and a refusal to accept defeat. "They have been doing this the entire war," Dren continued. "We only saw what they wanted us to see. Every victory we thought we won. They allowed us to win. They were studying us, learning our patterns, waiting for the right moment to strike back." Admiral Kryn entered the chamber then, his mechanical arm whirring softly. "Counselor Dren is correct. I have fought the humans directly. I have studied their tactics." He looked at each council member in turn. "We assumed they were like the other species we conquered. Disorganized, frightened, willing to surrender when faced with overwhelming force. We were wrong about every assumption." "Then what do you suggest?" Mix asked coldly. "Surrender? Admit defeat to a species we outnumber 10-1? I suggest we end this war before they decide to bring that 10-1 ratio to our home worlds," Kryn replied. "We poked the sleeping predator. It is awake now. We should negotiate while we still can." Across the galaxy, in a human military briefing room, Song Eun-ji presented her intelligence analysis to a very different audience. The room was smaller, more functional, with no names of conquered species on the walls, just maps of contested space and casualty reports. "Vryn communications have changed significantly in recent months," Eun-ji explained. "Before Captain Lee's rescue, their transmissions were confident, aggressive. Now their military channels show hesitation, fear. Multiple units have reported morale problems. Some have refused combat assignments entirely." Admiral Yuna listened from the back of the room. Since the rescue operation, she had been promoted to theater commander. The gray in her hair had increased. But so had the respect in the eyes of every soldier who saw her. "What are they most afraid of?" "Number 3. Number 7. The name Reaper has spread through their forces like a virus," Yoonji answered. "But it has evolved. They no longer use it to refer to just Captain Lee. Now it refers to any human special operations soldier. To them, every human soldier is potentially a Reaper. Every shadow might hide death." Ambassador Oh Kyung-min, attending the briefing, spoke up. "Fear is a powerful weapon, but we should be careful. Fear can turn to desperation, and desperate enemies make mistakes that cost lives on both sides." "Agreed," Yuna said. "Which is why we are here. The Vrin have requested peace negotiations. A murmur ran through the room. One young officer, Lieutenant Nam Jihu, could not contain himself. Peace? After what they did to Nu Sejong? To the colonies? Yes, peace, Yuna confirmed. Because we have proven our point. They thought we were weak. We showed them otherwise. Now we have a choice. We can continue fighting until one side is destroyed, or we can end this while we still have something to negotiate with. The peace talks took place on a neutral station, a converted trading post in unclaimed space. Oh Kyungmin led the human delegation, his face calm and diplomatic. Across from him, Counselor Dren represented the Vrin, his scales bearing new patterns of stress that had not been there 6 months ago. The Vrin Empire acknowledges that the conflict has been costly for both sides, Dren began carefully. Cut the formal language, Kyungmin interrupted gently. We both know why we are here. You are afraid. Not of losing the war, but of what humanity will do if we decide to win it completely. Dren's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. You are direct. I appreciate that. Yes, we are reconsidering our position regarding human space. Reconsidering is not enough, Kyungmin said. You will withdraw from all occupied human colonies. You will return all prisoners. You will establish a demilitarized zone 3 light-years deep on your side of the border, and you will pay reparations for the damage you caused. Those terms are harsh. Those terms are generous, Kyungmin corrected. The alternative is Captain Lee Taemin and 100 others like him visiting your homeworlds. Do you want to find out what happens then? Dren was silent for a long moment. Then he clicked his mandibles in resignation. The Council will accept these terms. The treaty was signed 1 week later. The Vrin began withdrawing from human space within days. Occupation forces packed up and left, some looking over their shoulders as if expecting shadows to come alive and strike them down. In a small office on a human military base, Major Lee Taemin sat across from Admiral Yuna. She had offered him a promotion, a teaching position, a chance to train the next generation of special operations soldiers. He had refused all of it. You cannot keep doing field operations forever, Yuna said. You have proven yourself. You have earned the right to rest. I am not looking for rest, Taemin replied. There are more species out there, more threats. Someone needs to be ready. Yuna sighed but smiled. You realize you have become a legend, right? Young soldiers join special operations hoping to be like you. The enemy fears your name. You could inspire and lead from a desk. Legends are for the enemy to fear, Taemin said. I am just a soldier. Soldiers belong in the field. At least take your team with you. They earned the right to stay together. Taemin nodded. Park Minho, Han Sora, Choi Daeho, and the others had all requested to continue serving under his command. They had faced death together. They trusted each other completely. That trust was more valuable than any medal or promotion. 3 weeks later, reports came in of another species, the Zentari, threatening human settlers on the frontier world of Nova Sol. They were raiders, not empire builders, but they had killed civilians and taken prisoners. The human response was swift. A special operations team was deployed within hours. As the dropship descended through the atmosphere, Taemin checked his weapons and reviewed the mission parameters. Around him, his team prepared in comfortable silence. They had done this before. They would do it again. The Zentari intercepted human communications by accident, listening in on military channels. They heard the chatter of the approaching team, standard coordination talk. Then one word appeared on their translation systems, a call sign that made their blood run cold. Reaper inbound. The Zentari commander looked at his second-in-command. According to our intelligence, yes. The Vrin lost an entire war because of operators like him. The commander thought about the human prisoners they held, about the settlement they had raided, about the easy loot they had expected. Release the prisoners. Evacuate immediately. Leave everything. Sir, we outnumber them 50 to 1. The Vrin outnumbered them too. Look what happened to them. The Zentari were gone before the human team landed. They left the prisoners unharmed, the settlement intact, and a message in broken human language. Apologies. Mistake. Will not return. Taman surveyed the abandoned raider camp and allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes the best victory was the one you did not have to fight for. Years later, on Vryn war memorials, an inscription appeared that would be copied across 100 worlds. It read, "They were silent in captivity, but their name thundered across the stars. Remember, never mistake human silence for human weakness." And in the darkness between stars, wherever humans faced threats, the name Reaper was whispered. Not with pride by those who carried it, but with fear by those who heard it. Because humanity had learned something the rest of the galaxy was still discovering. The quietest predator is often the most dangerous. And humans, when they chose to be, could be very quiet indeed.